So, Dennis, can you tell us about how the chapter began, what that process was like?
Well, for me, I first became aware of NARI, and it wasn't even called NARI back then. It was the National Home Improvement Association. In the early 1990s, we started our business in 1990, and I went to a National Remodelers Show in 1991 in the fall that was out of Pittsburgh. And that's when I first heard of it, but I wasn't aware of anything going on in our area. And then in the spring of 1992, in the classified ad section, I think it was of a local newspaper, but there was this little ad that talked about some remodelers were getting together to talk about forming an association for Bucks and Montgomery County. And it was held at the estate of George S. Snyder. I went. I would estimate there was 40 to 50 people there. I think they were predominantly contractors. And they talked about how they were going to launch this, and gathered. At that point, it wasn't email addresses. I think maybe it was fax numbers. I don't remember how they followed up with us, but it took a little while, and then we got information that they were going to launch this, and it was time to pony up with dues. And I don't remember what the initial dues were, but I do know that there was 12 initial charter members of the Bucksmont NARI.
Do you remember who they were?
I don't know that I could get all 12. Joe Billingham, Bob Debris, Dave Haynes, Kevin Darcy, Neil Minucci, Bob Barber, Andrew DeMedio, he was with the state of Georgia, Snyder, Gary Krause. I'm drawing a blank on more than that.
So you had 12 original members.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, when you had these 12 members, you had the chapter chartered. And how did you guys decide on the bylaws and who would serve as your first president?
I think, well, Joe Billingham got an attorney out of Doylestown.
Steve Colmar, I think. Or Cutler.
Steve Cutler, yeah, to do pro bono, help us with these bylaws. None of us really had a clue, and he said, well, here's kind of a template for nonprofits. And I think we got something like that from NARI National as well, and then worked that together. I don't remember being in on a whole lot of that conversation. I think Neil Minucci was the first president. Neil's with Homestead Remodeling. There was a National Home Improvement Association chapter in Philadelphia. And some of these guys were driving down to that, but what they were, all of their work and our work is in the suburbs, so that's why they wanted. They were tired of driving that far, but they said it's different types of contracting because it's a different client base and kinds of projects that you do.
Was the chapter always called Bucksmont NARI, or did it just start off with Bucks County or Montgomery County?
No, it was always Bucksmont.
And how did, when you had your growth process, because at that point you basically had 12 people sign up for their dues. Do you remember what you paid for dues, by the way?
I don't. So, I mean, my guess is that it was in the $250 to $300 range.
All right. So you paid for your dues, and then where did you see the growth picking up? How did we go from 12 to 160 in 20 years? Where was that big push?
I would say within the first year we were probably up to 40, 45 members.
Wow.
And that was just from those of us, the initial 12, talking about it with friends. I wonder if one of the first members also wasn't Waring's Home Improvement Center over in Ottsville. They were definitely on board and supportive as sponsor. They put information out, at their counter, so as contractors came in for materials. That definitely helped. Pace Supply did that. J&L supply was and Snyder's, because Snyder's was a big home center in this area for a lot of years. So that definitely helped to get the word out. And we decided on monthly dinner meetings, and that was really the gist of it for, I'd say the first probably 4 years. And I think it was probably like 1996, 97, something like that, when we had our first local Cody's. And Bob Dubree was the push behind that. He took the bull by the horns and made that happen.
Tell me about that first Cody Awards. How many people were there? Where was it at? What was the mood and climate?
It was exciting. It was at Margine Caterers on Broad Street in Lansdale, and they're still there. Boy, numbers. I'm guessing that it was probably 60 to 80 people. I don't recall that for sure. And I don't remember what the initial awards or plaques were. I ought to look back at. I know there was some years when it was a Corian material, and a fabricator made up some awards for us, and then some years when it was more of a sculpture kind of a piece. In the beginning, our rules for the Cody entries were a bit more lax, but then some of us had interest in entering national as well, and we said, boy, why should we have to do this twice? Let's get on board. So we adopted the national Cody entry rules, and that was maybe just 2-3 years into it. And at that point, kind of the NARI office was basically where whoever was president. So the NARI phone rang in our office. So the NARI line was call forwarded to our office, and then after a while it got to the point. I was no longer on the board. I think it would have been late 90s.